So, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. If you don't know, I am Rebecca. I am the project manager for Pactful Now. As you can see, I'm not Bianca. So, if you know Bianca, she has moved to a wonderful job at Digital Promise and sends all of the best of luck to all of you. We're really happy you guys are here. I've worked with the Jacobs Institute for the last 2 years, working on another project called Vismo with origami, and I'm now very excited to be working here and have worked also in design thinking and always kind of been in the background with Bianca. So very, very happy to be with everyone on this call. As you know, today is our prototype call. We're also here with Annie, who is our I can't remember the role, social innovation specialist, and she just helps with everything in between and with social media and with getting everyone what we all need to succeed. And we also have Perla Myers on our team, who's also the director of the Jacobs Institute, and Derek Frempong, who does all of our engineering in the background of the Pactful app, and our wonderful Lisa Dolly, who's can't be with us today, but is one of the co-creators of this wonderful design thinking process. So we have just a quote for the day to get us started and frame our thinking. You never fail until you stop trying. We know in our prototype phase, it is all about trying and trying again. So, Albert Einstein loved this quote. If anyone has another quote that they love around, keep trying, making mistakes, that we love failing and trying again and succeeding. Although I think failures are not really failures. They're just a chance for us to learn something, right? So this is just a quote for the day. Feel free to put in another quote that you love. So Annie, I'm going to turn it over to you to start us off.
Hi, everyone. As a reminder, this is our timeline. Important dates to keep in mind are April 30th, when the video pitches will be due. You can review any videos on our YouTube channel from previous webinars, and we'll go over any final details in the pitch webinar. We will also, so these are the prizes and certificates that we will be awarding within this competition. Everyone wins because we're taking steps to a better world where we live in. Winning teams and their solutions will be celebrated on our Pactful website and the Pactful community and media, along with receiving certificates celebrating their success. And then we are also excited to offer an additional sponsored prize this year to on behalf of DRS Daylight Solutions. Student teams who create a solution in the field of photonics are eligible to receive an award of $1,000 to a charity of their choice, recognition from DRS Light Solutions, who will share their news via their marketing channels and provide certificate of their achievement, as well as mentoring on behalf of Daylight Solutions. To qualify for this award, the solution must be in the science of light waves. And on to the next one.
And just as a side note, you can also see on our website the past winners and take a look at who won also the Photonics Innovation Award last year as well.
Correct. And we have the incredible opportunity today to hear from a previous Jacob Teen Innovation Challenge winner from Mount Everest Academy, Eric Nielsen, who is the teacher of the winning team last year and has been teaching for many years. Malia Wilk is one of 3 challenge winners of 2023 with the Firefly Health prototype. They have graciously agreed to join us today and tell us a little bit about the process going through the challenge and the phototype phase in particular, as well as any questions you may have for them. Eric and Malia, welcome to the webinar.
Thanks very much. It's awesome to be here, part of my Pactful family. This is my 5th year working on the program, and my teams have won 3 out of the first 4 years at Mount Everest Academy, so I'm bragging about my guys. But why don't I pass it first to Malia, and Malia can share the design and the prototype that she did last year for us. Take it away, Malia.
Hello, my name is Malia, like you said. and we'll be talking about our project, Firefly Health. So I would like to I'd like to start out by saying what the problem is. So Firefly Health addressed the issue of household air pollution, which is a very big problem all around the world, with about a third of the population using inefficient fires that produce lots of smoke. So all of the efforts to address household air pollution are communicated through the United Nations goal number 3, good health and well-being. To address this, we created Firefly Health. So what is Firefly Health? It stands for fumes-reduced, inexpensive innovation, reused materials, and environmentally friendly. So our solution essentially is a stove that has a chimney that will direct smoke away, and it's supposed to be a cheaper and environmentally friendly alternative to just using open fire. So it's sustainable and it reduces the smoke. Those are the core parts of our solution. And then also we created pamphlets that have instructions on how to create the stove. So then people can essentially use reused materials that they already have and then create it themselves. So the general idea, like I said, is just to have people use cans and other materials they already have to create the stove. And then once it's created, it can be used to cook food, boil water, but in a safe way that directs smoke away from the living space. So now I'll talk about our prototype and essentially the behind the scenes and how we came up with the idea and created the prototype. So our first step was to create 2D models. We started with just pen and paper and sketched out some ideas, and then it developed into more paper sketches, and then we moved on to an online model just to make it a little more exact and detailed. So here you can see in the middle is the stove and essentially all the main elements of it, and then on the right is a little more zoomed in part where the chimney would attach to the bigger can. And then here are just some more designs of detailed. The one on the left shows the cans that are part of the chimney and how we would cut it so it will fit together, kind of like a puzzle piece so people can build it themselves. And then moving on, we finally created 3D models, but before creating 3D models, it was really important to make the 2D models because they helped us think through the ideas without using so many resources. So we created three 3D models in total, a cardboard one and 2 metal ones. So to start off with the cardboard one, it was obviously not functional. It was just to test the general concept of it and how the cans would fit together. So we had like the cardboard represented the bigger paint can, and then we just stuck like smaller cans into it to see how that would all fit together. And then we moved on to a metal one, which this was functional. However, it had some major flaws, including a bigger hole in it, but it still worked. We cooked with it. However, the chimney didn't stay up as well as we'd liked, and it wasn't as tall, so it didn't function quite as well. So finally, taking in the flaws of our first one, we created a second metal one, but 3rd overall. Here are just some more photos of the first metal prototype. And then finally, here is our 3rd metal prototype. It looked a lot nicer, the chimney was longer, and we addressed most of the problems of the first one quite well. So here are the materials that we used before, and then we actually used it, and I have a video of it in use. So it worked quite well. It created a hot enough fire to cook an egg, meat, boil water. So that was very nice, and then it did direct the smoke away effectively. And here's another one. So you can see where essentially it would heat up really nicely, but the smoke was directed away. So The idea is it wouldn't be in the area where someone is living, because that's dangerous, because breathing smoke can result in a lot of diseases. And then here it is in use, cooking an egg, and you can see how it really did make enough heat to cook an egg, which is very important because you need to make sure the stove is actually going to be practical for someone, because the replacement needs to be able to be used to cook food for everyday use. More photos, and then on the right you can see the smoke being directed away, so it worked quite well. And then yeah, it just was able to cook lots of different foods, and we were quite happy with it in general, but it really needed multiple prototypes before that to come to this point. And then after we had our prototype, we were happy with it. We then thought about how are we going to communicate this design to others so they can make it themselves, because ideas, they will take the materials they have and make it for themselves. So we created a pamphlet, which on the front, it detailed what is the project, what can it do, and then on the back, it detailed the steps. What materials are they going to need? How should they put it together? For this, we just used Canva. We collaborated and shared it between each other to make it. So that's everything for me. Thank you for watching how we made our prototype. And do you have any questions?
So we have an opportunity to ask Malia any questions as the student, as the person who had to go through the prototype process. And then we have a little questionnaire from our teacher, Mr. Nielsen, for all of us on this call to spend a couple minutes just filling it out. So he can best also contribute in the discussion of helping you guys and all of us think through the prototype phase. So any questions initially just for Malia? What did you have to learn to come up with the solutions?
Great question. To come up with the solution, beforehand, before prototyping, we did a lot of research into different issues in healthcare and accessibility to medicine, and we learned about the issue of indoor air quality, and we researched it a lot. And then as part of the research phase, we did interview a couple people, so that research phase is really important and gives a lot of foundational knowledge. Like for the actual creating the prototype, we didn't have to research too much about that. We researched like different materials that would work well and withstand, that were durable and would withstand like a fire, because there's gonna be a fire installation. How accessible are the medicines for third world countries? What kind of materials? So another point about the solution was that essentially the United Nations gives food donations, and a lot of the times cans are used in those situations for different beans, soups. A lot of times cans are used. So the idea is either they get cans from other resources or the United Nations, they get them through food that way. So I think cans are pretty used worldwide. That was the idea. Did you speak with the user who would be using this prototype? We did not have the opportunity to talk to someone who would actually be using it. However, we did use a Google form, which I highly recommend for getting feedback, and talk to some people about what they thought of the general concept. And after using it, we had a few other people outside of the team use the product and to cook their own food, and we did, so it wasn't in the situation of someone as a replacement, but we kind of phrased as, if you were in that situation, what would you think of our project? How did you validate your prototype with users, consumers, experts? As far, I already talked about users and consumers, but with experts, we also didn't talk to really any experts. However, the World Health Organization has this benchmark, these guidelines for indoor air quality and what sort of stoves fit those guidelines. So when we were coming up with our prototype, we had that in mind and made sure our prototype would follow these guidelines of essentially that smoke is being directed away, that the flames are closed, so then there's not as much burnt. So we took in those considerations.
And great things just to point out for everyone to think about, right? Of ways that we can always evolve our prototypes. Like one idea is there a connection you have that you could talk to an expert or a user as an even continuation of something like this project, right? I'm gonna take the opportunity just to put one more time. Thank you so much to Malia. Malia is amazing in joining us today. And we have her teacher, Ms. Danios, in here as well, who has a quick form that I'm just going to give us all a minute just to fill out. He has a form of just a few questions around the prototype phase and in general as teachers, where you guys are at with your project, and that will allow him to better contribute to the discussion on our call today. So I'm just going to give us all a minute just to fill that out. And then Eric, I think we'll feel free if you want to mention a few things now, and then we'll keep going. And then at the end, I think maybe giving you another opportunity to talk more once you get to look at the form. Does that sound good to you?
That sounds great.
Okay. So let's just give everyone a minute to fill it out. I just put it in the chat again, and then we'll keep going.
Cool. Thanks for taking the time to do that. That'll help me answer some questions a little bit better. But you can tell why Malia won the contest, I think, last year. You know, the number of prototypes she did was really impressive. One of the things I think that is really excellent about this Pactful is that the kids are challenged to work, not just in school, but to work remotely together. And so you could see her prototype. You couldn't really do that at school to do all the fire and all that kind of stuff. And so for us at our school, one of the best learning experience of Pactful, besides the design thinking, is how to collaborate with a team that's different than you are and work off the books, off the time, off hours to satisfy the requirements. And so one of the main things that, you know, as teachers, we're always asked to do first is to share rubrics with each other, you know, and look at the rubric for, oops, let me grab the whole rubric again. Is to look at the rubric first before, you know, you get through the prototype part for Pactful. And so if you check out the prototype rubric, is this still the same one that you guys are using for this year, Rebecca?
I believe it should be the same.
Yeah.
And we'll share in the pitch webinar, we'll go into like detail on this and give the official one for this year. But yes, it should be.
Okay, cool. But you see, if you're looking at the prototype inside the rubric, you can see how Malia really hit a lot of those things really well. So, you know, how plausible and feasible is it? How cost effective is it? How has it been explained how it can be built? How significant is the solution? How many people can use it? How many people have tested it? Is the impact clear? You know, those are all the kind of threes in the rubric. And I feel like she really hit all those kinds of things, and they did multiple iterations of the prototype. So some of the things for us that we do at our school for prototyping are we give some class periods, but for the most part, they're working remotely. And we have our makerspace open for them to grab everything that they can. And for me, my role as an educator usually in Pactful is to stay out of their way. You know, I make sure that they're on track as far as following the modules and getting stuff turned in there. And that gets them thinking enough where for me, the most important part is staying out of the way. And then if you saw from my form, we've been doing some things to kind of make the program a little bit more robust because we've been doing it for 5 years. So before the program starts, and if you're going to do it again next year, you know, we have like a pre-survey or an essay where we try to group our kids in areas that they're really interested in and committed to. So right away from the very beginning, we're setting the groups up and they're very diverse, but they are based on what they love to talk about and think about. And so that gets them really engaged and involved. We're looking at the rubrics. We're during the pitch phase, we're voting together and we're looking at everybody's pitch before we send our pitches into Pactful to choose our top 2 choices. And then we're also we let them know at the very beginning, and you could still let them know if you haven't, that their peers are going to be able to grade each other based on their effort and work that they've done for the whole program. So it really gives them a chance to understand, because I'm doing it with 8th grade this year. I've always done it with 9th grade, but there's always concerns within the groups, about kids not doing their equal parts. And so it really gives them a chance to kind of relax a little bit on that, because ultimately somebody is doing more work than somebody else in these group projects. That's just how life is. And so it helps kind of settle them down. So the prototyping is really the fun part. And yeah, I'll find the pre-survey form. I think actually there's a link on the form that goes to it. It's really simple. It's just ask them kind of what they're interested in. Oh, it's not shareable. Is that the first link that we got on there? Oh, I'm sorry, the survey form's not shareable.
Questions aren't up. Yeah, for
I got
estimates, they're all, then they're not up. Sorry.
Okay, I'll fix those. Sorry. I usually don't share outside my district. I'll fix all those so that you guys can check them out later if you pop into them, or when you guys take over, I'll join in on that.
Perfect.
Yeah, so the prototype part is just really fun, just encourage them to what I really tell them too is, this isn't the final draft, right? And so don't get all hung up on making this perfect. Get hung up more on failing and trying again and failing and trying again and failing and trying again. And then document all those failures and tell what you learned from those failures, and enjoy the process, because, this, for my kids, they love to do prototyping because it's so different from their normal schoolwork. They're not sitting there with a book and they're not just having to answer questions or write essays. They're experimenting. And so they bring, bags of stuff. And actually tomorrow will be the first day that we're going to start. We're prototyping tomorrow. And so they're all bringing bags of stuff and they're going to lay them out on their 2 tables and start building their stuff.
Amazing. Eric, I'm thinking, do you want us to keep going through, and then we'll have time at the end for you guys to keep doing Q&A and look at the Google form?
Yeah, and I'll fix those surveys and all that stuff, Dr. Fitzgerald, is that right? And then I'll look and see if there's any questions that you guys put in that form, and I'll hang around for the end.
Amazing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It's fantastic. So everyone, if you guys have questions that you're coming up with, like just things for you guys as the educators, right? Things that you want maybe tips on, or ways that Mr. Nielsen has dealt with it in his classroom, feel free to put that in the chat. I think now we'll go through just our, from our side, from the Pactful side of the curriculum, things to keep in mind for the prototype phase, and then we'll bring Mr. Nielsen right back in to have a discussion at the end. So please feel free to put all those comments and thoughts in the chat. So last time we had our ideate phase webinar, in the ideation phase, which if you guys are still there, that's fine, right? If your class is not in the prototype phase yet and you're getting there, that's okay. In our ideate phase, we're articulating what that problem is. We are what is the problem that your teammates want to solve, discover potential solutions, brainstorming, right? And then we get into our prototype phase of actually potentially building a solution and bringing it to life and seeing what this looks like and playing with it and having fun with it. And I just want to point out, as you'll see, I mean, this is on our Pactful page, but just this idea that there's always back and forth movement, right? So your team might be in the prototype phase, and then you say, we got to go back to the ideate phase. And what is the idea again that we want to spark a solution? Maybe we restart, or maybe we need to go all the way back to understand the complexity of the problem, and then we move back. So it's all a flowing process, right? You do not need to feel like you need to be in one place at one time. It is definitely depending on your group and the direction of your students. But in our prototype phase, we're receiving feedback from others. We're continually working and improving our solution until it meets the needs of our user or our audience. So let's take a look at our little Pactful video.
You have an idea. Now bring it to life with prototyping. The prototype phase is all about designing and building your solution, then testing it with others to see how it works. Your team will start by designing a 2D or 3D model to go from an idea in your head to something visible. Models will help you visualize what your solution will look like and how it'll work. They can be made with physical materials like recycled plastic and paper, or they can be made digitally with graphic design apps. Then you'll use your model as a guide to build your prototype. A prototype is a simple and inexpensive version of your solution that works. It doesn't have to work fully or perfectly, but it should be able to be used by other people so they can test it and provide feedback. Once your prototype is ready, take it to the people who need it and ask them to try it out and tell you what they think. Based on their feedback, you may enter a cycle of redesigning, building, and retesting until your solution evolves into something impactful that meets people's needs. Building a better world happens by continually improving your solution over and over again.
So as we said, designing and building your solution, drafting, planning for service-oriented solutions, and building and testing it. This is the really, really fun part. And always, how do we get feedback? This is an opportunity for you to also, as a class, just discuss how to have constructive feedback with each other, right? And with other people. I just wanted to point out this idea that you can do with your teammates, with your students, as we're thinking about designing and building. And as we all know, when you try something for the first time, as Malia said, it doesn't always go exactly as you want the first time. And it takes a lot of tries, a lot of doing, a lot of productive struggle. So when we think about it with our students and for us as educators, you know, I invite you guys to do this activity for yourselves, maybe in your head now, or if you'd like to put it in the chat. Think of a time that you feel that you've quote unquote failed, right? That you feel like it didn't go as planned for you. And just take a second to maybe think of an example of that. For me, even something as just, you know, doing the wrong screen share when I'm doing a presentation, right? And then thinking through for yourself, and if you want to do it with your students, you know, so you made a mistake or something that you feel like didn't go as you wanted. What did you learn from each of those moments? And how would you do it differently the next time? Same with our prototypes. You know, we call things a failure, but it's not really a failure. It's an opportunity, right? So just thinking about that and maybe even talking about that with your students. I know that there's a lot of perfectionists. There's a lot of, you know, feeling like there's a grade or there's something that you need to meet. But this Pactful curriculum is all about throwing that out the window and trying something for the sake of trying and seeing what happens. So just something to keep in mind as we're going through our curriculum. So we have these different phases, and on our Pactful website, of course, you'll see all of this laid out in the prototyping section of your teacher profile. So you have all these different phases of the prototyping. So first, we have the design it phase. So in this phase, like Malia showed us already, you have the 2D model. Students have the option to use pen and paper or digital software if they want to use that to design a prototype. Some teams create a product that can be graphed or sketched out. Other teams may also choose something like a service, such as a campaign or a fundraiser, or a website that they want to draft. And that can also be drafted out, sketched out, put in a design software, a flow chart, a concept map. Those are all options that you can do. The 3D model, which Malia also showed us. Students have the option to craft materials, 3D design programs. They can use Tinkercad, for example, to prototype their solution. Whatever it is that works for them to design it. You don't have to do all, but it does help, and something that I'm sure at the end we could ask our guest speakers as well of, going through both is a great process. And then once you kind of have some type of prototype, again, it could also be that flow chart or concept map or a physical object, we're going to build it. So you can prototype to test. You can prototype for empathy, such as asking people these, like Malia was saying, you ask a group of people, if you were using this product, how does it make you feel? What do you feel like is missing? We have on our website multiple different things to test for. So it's not just, does it work? But what is the reaction of people to this prototype? And, different ways that you can test it, be building it and thinking about different elements of what it is that you're building. And then when we test it, we're asking people, we're getting that feedback. You can iterate, revise your prototype several times based on feedback from testers. If you have an actual physical product, you can have the testers try out that prototype. If it's a service or a policy or a website or a campaign, the testers can review and provide feedback on that plan. On our website, we also have different ways that you can do that feedback. Just for example, one way is this little chart of I like, or I wish, or what if, and you can just ask people, what is it that you liked about this prototype or about this service or policy? What is it that you wish to see in it? What's something that you think would be nice if it had it? And what if you maybe tried this instead? What are some ideas that you could try? That's just one map that we use. You can also do like a feedback grid, which we also have on the website as an option for you. So just thinking through the various tools and ways that you can do that. I'll just show you guys really quickly on the website, if I can pull it up. Let me screen share with you. Okay, so we're in this prototype phase, so you'll see in the different elements of it, you have designing it, 2D, building it, prototype to test, prototype for empathy, what will the product most helpful for your user? What feature do you think the user would deem most important? Just thinking through those different questions, prototyping a service, creating some time to use maybe a virtual software. And these are our different ways to get feedback. And again, maybe you get feedback and you go back to the ideate phase, right? It could go in so many different directions. So this is the basics of the prototype phase. If anyone wants to add anything at all in terms of their own experience with that, or where they're at in the process now, feel free to put that in the chat, or also you can just say it out loud. And Eric, whenever you're ready, you're welcome to jump back in with your survey that we filled out for you guys.
Yeah. Wow. You could see really, as you're looking at Malia's stuff, the depth that she went into all these pieces that Rebecca's talking about really shows the diligence towards the design thinking process that we're trying to teach the kids. And so some kids are just going to, kind of streamline this and go really fast. Others are going to go really in depth, like Malia with the pamphlet, the explanations about how to build it, the research. That's what Pactful judges would like to see. I was going to put a couple other links in here to the past winners from my teams. And you can see that the winners oftentimes are fairly simple. For instance, in 2020, my team designed food bags that were from leftovers, lost and found clothes from schools. And so I think sometimes if the kids are designing things that are really really high end and that are really hard to prototype and stuff, I think as you go through the prototypes, like Rebecca was saying, it doesn't have to be finished until you send your pitch in. We're constantly changing the idea. We're fine tuning the concept. We're changing maybe fundamental issues that we thought were right at the beginning. So don't be afraid to change things and simplify a little bit is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes a simple idea is much better. My kids have done things like designed carbon catchers that were supposed to go on freeway on-ramps and stuff like that. And the concept was just so giant. I feel like that the Packful team didn't really resonate with that. So I was just gonna remind you that it's not done until it's all the way finished. And so another thing I was gonna note that Rebecca said too is that I don't grade these necessarily. I grade these as complete or not complete, and you get full credit for turning them in. And so there's a certain amount of freedom that comes to the kids. And so some kids will be like Malia and really go the extra mile, and some kids won't so much, but still it gives them a certain amount of creative freedom where they can spend time failing. They can spend time in the prototype failing. And so think about trying to help your kids design something that feels a little bit more realistic. Sometimes the science fiction ideas, even though we're trying to really solve systemic problems, don't resonate so well. And it's hard for an 8th or 9th or 10th grader to develop something. Not saying that they can't, and we're trying to get them to do that. But
Yeah, and Malia, you wanted to add something?
But to add on to the point of like tangibility, that actually I think helped our project, because having it be tangible to make, easy to make, was a fundamental part of it, because it was more cost effective and people could make it themselves and use materials. If it was really complicated, that wouldn't have been possible. So I agree with what you said.
Yeah, and I want to just loop in. I know I saw a comment in the chat asking about, our prototype is still under experimentation. We won't have the final product for the end. Is the physical solution mandatory? I would say, it is the final product is not mandatory, right? What we want to see is just that your team is in terms of like, if you have a vision of something that's going to grow right past this project, we do want to see something that's, it's been iterated, it's been worked on, you guys have been building it and testing it. So, yes, of course, and we'll talk more about this in the pitch webinar. We want to see that the process has been done. Do we expect there to always be like a final product that's going to go to market? No, right? But to see something that's been evolved and worked on, like we've seen with Malia, that, it can always go further. But I definitely would encourage you to not stress about making it, to some certain level, but to just start and keep going and iterating and experimenting. I hope that somewhat answers that question.
I think that answers Dr. Don's question too, right? Because you guys aren't going to be able to do a finished design process for that whole thing, but you could do iterations of it that showed that you were moving towards that and how you were going to do it. I think that's fascinating, really. I think the judges would really like that. You just have to, I think because it's such a kind of a high concept, you're going to have to do as much explanation and design and drawing and
Oh, for
concept.
ours?
Yeah.
Oh, we're done. We did this already.
Oh, cool.
We used the microbit. So the kids have been working with our community partner for the last 3 weeks, testing it, iterating, changing up some of the design work, working with battery charge and whatnot. I mean, I teach middle school, but I've also done Project Invent. So this is my, my 3rd year with them. So Jacobs is very similar. So we're just using, like, the kids have been testing this, and we've got some really great data and trends already.
Wow.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah. And these are like 6th graders and 7th graders, 8th graders doing it.
They're teaching us about AI.
100%.
I mean, I had Malia today help me with Zoom, so.
Rebecca, a couple of the questions I got, I think should go out to the whole group. Like,
Yes, please.
how do you validate the prototype?
Is that a question for me?
That's just one that was put in the form. How do you validate the prototype? What do you guys think?
Anyone else want to take a stab at that?
Test it. Yeah, Malia probably could talk to us about that. But yeah, test it, right?
I mean, there's a lot of different types of prototypes because I think like it doesn't necessarily have to be one that is fully functioning, but that test, and if you can test it, really putting in the hands of the users is the best way. So trying to test it with as many people and a very diverse group of people to see how it works in different situations. We don't want to test it like the same situation. We want to try, like for ours, we tested different foods with it. We tried boiling water. We tried different materials to see how well it worked and where we could change it.
That's great.
Another question is it okay if our project focuses on the national approach rather than a worldwide one?
I think that's perfectly fine because I think like any problem, big or small, if it affects whatever community is still important.
But
Yeah.
believe yours really affected marginalized communities though in a wide swath of the globe, you know,
Yeah.
that I think made it more appealing.
It was a wide, like, it was a very global problem, but it was still like a pretty specific thing. It wasn't like fixing all of United Nations Goal 3, all of health and well-being. It was one very specific problem, indoor air quality. So I think like trying to target a really small problem is important, not the entire goal.
Yeah, it's a great point to be really specific in when you're talking about the issue or the problem, really zoning in on one area you can tackle that goal. And it's a really good question. I would say also, you know, you absolutely can have an issue that is more pertaining to the United States or one country in particular, but they're always around the Sustainable Development Goals, right? So those goals are absolutely, they go to a global level because they are goals that the UN has found to be issues around the entire world that we can help tackle. But if you want to specifically tackle climate change issues in Dallas because there's this crazy air pollution and you have a solution for that, great. So, you know, I would encourage your team to also think about how does it connect to a larger communities as well, but really, like Malia said, like your topic can be very specific. Absolutely. I think we have just another couple minutes before we go to our just kind of wrap up things. We have an exciting new platform for our teachers that we want to talk about. But Eric, anything else you wanted to bring into the conversation?
No, but feel free to hit me up if you have any questions with email or if you want to partner up on something. I'd love to work with you. Everyone that filled out the form said it was their first time doing Pactful. So if you need any help with the process or anything, Malia and I will be available for you guys.
Amazing, thank you. And Eric, if you could just put your, sorry, Mr. Nielsen, if you could put your email in the chat, that would be amazing for everyone to have. And great to hear that this is everyone on this call's first time with Pactful. We are absolutely here every step of the way. And you can always also contact myself and Annie with any questions as you're going through. And we're just, you know, this is such an amazing project and opportunity, which actually leads me into our last part of our call today. So we have, if anyone has used Discord before, let us know in the chat. We know that we have tried in the past to start community spaces for educators to chat, to talk about what they're working on, to ask a question like, hey, our students did this, what do you think of this? Or Do you have any suggestions? Mr. Nielsen is already in that Discord group. You know, hopefully as more teachers join, teachers who've worked on it Pactful in the past, can also join and just ask questions. This is a space to introduce yourselves to each other, to connect with other educators around the globe and around the US, share what's going on in your classroom. And this is not only for those who are doing the challenge, but anyone who uses the Pactful curriculum. So I'm just going to show you guys really quick so you can see what I'm talking about. So for anyone who has not used it before, oh, this is the wrong one. Sorry, give me 1 second. Just get in the right space. So Discord is a platform that a lot of people use who like are gamers, who play a lot of video games, who just chat with each other as they're going through. And so we will, Annie, if you can put the link in the chat for everyone to our Discord. Basically to join, you just create an account, you know, email and a little name. So everybody knows this Discord is not for students, unfortunately. Sorry to Malia. This is specifically just for, you know, legal reasons and to make sure that we don't have students making side chats. We are just keeping this for educators for the time being. But you simply create an account, and with that link, you should automatically join into, you'll see on the left side, this little Pactful icon. This is our Pactful server. So on Discord, there's multiple servers that people can join, which are like groups. If you use Slack, it's kind of similar to Slack in that way. So our server is Pactful Educator Community. And within that server, there's lots of different channels or spaces where you can communicate. So you'll see we have a channel specifically for the Jacobs Innovation Challenge. Here is just our welcome to webinars. So you guys can always look at past webinars. And Annie, if you can also put in the chat, just a link to our YouTube channel with the past webinars, you'll see them here. This is where you can say, you know, hey, I have a question about the prototype phase. You know, what was your favorite activity to do with the kids, the students, sorry, not kids, the youth. And maybe another teacher will, you know, be able to answer that for you. You are also welcome to just introduce yourself. Just say a little bit about you. And maybe add a picture if you want. So it's really a space just to chat and to get to know each other. You're welcome to share this with others. There's also an opportunity where you can talk with someone, like voice talk with someone. You can share pictures, you can share links. So for anyone who would love to join, we would love to have you guys on our Discord channel. This is new, we're just starting it now, and we will have it linked in our app. So in our app, currently there's a community tab at the top, which doesn't lead to anything. It will now lead to this. So that will be directly in the app so educators can easily access it. So we would love to have you guys join and let us know if you get any issues or have any questions at all with that. And lastly, I am going to pass it to Annie for our Storyteller Award.
Yes, definitely. So as a reminder, we are having a $25 Storyteller Award every webinar. And that is for anyone who shares their students' progress or their team's progress with the hashtag JTIC24. And again, every webinar, we will be announcing our winners. So today's webinar winners are Dr. Dawn and Justin Breton. Congratulations, and thank you so much for sharing all your progress. And feel free to use these posts as an example for your students, because we would love to see the progress everyone is making.
And I believe Dr. Don is on this call, yes. So congratulations, Dr. Don. Feel free to keep posting. And we'd love to see everyone's work as you go along, whatever part of that process. We love seeing it and sharing it. So go ahead, Annie. Was this you? I don't remember. Oh, it's me. So just a reminder, sorry, that our last webinar before the submissions is our pitch phase, April 11th. So April 11th is the webinar for the pitch phase. We'll go through just how to best do that. I know Mr. Nielsen and Malia spoke a little bit about it today, and you're welcome to, we'll get some more suggestions from them as well for that to present to you at that webinar. And that's just going to be, you know, the pitch phase is the culmination of the work and the research and the exploration. And April 30th is when those pitches are going to be due. So we're very excited to keep going. Again, don't stress if you're at a different part of the process. We are here for you, and it's really just to go through this new, fun, different, challenging design thinking process together. So any comments or questions before we end for today?